Now, it is possible that when the history books are written about Nigeria's battle with insecurity leading up to the 2023 elections, this past week will be more than a footnote. Because even as we celebrate the release of the remaining hostages abducted in March after gunmen attacked the Abuja to Kaduna train, questions are still being asked about whether a ransom was paid and what that might mean for future incidents. And this amid reports that more than 100 Boko Haram militants detained at Kirikiri prison were freed in exchange for the release of the 23 hostages, even as evidence is emerging of growing cooperation in the coordination of attacks between militants in the northeast and bandits in the northwest. So, as Nigeria's military battles the jihadi insurgency in the northeast, criminal bandits in the northwest, and separatist tensions elsewhere, what hope is there that the storm will subside before the 2023 elections? Well, for more on that, I'm joined now in the studio by the Secretary to the Chief of Defence Staff's committee that negotiated the release of the last batch of trained hostages, Professor Usman Yusuf, who's also a public policy expert. Thank you very much indeed, Prof, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
But let's start with the burning questions around the release of those 23 hostages. Was there actually a military operation to get them released, or did you have to pay a ransom to secure their freedom?
So good. No ransom paid. Period.
Absolutely not a penny.
Absolutely, period. No ransom paid through the CDS Action Committee to get the release of these 23. We were instrumental from beginning to the end. No ransom was paid. I don't know how else to say it.
Right, okay. Well, you've said it clear enough. No ransom was paid, and you are the secretary to that committee.
Absolutely.
So you must know if a ransom was paid.
And I was in the forest for 3 days and I got them out. So if anybody says anything, he's just an armchair analyst. And there are million and one of them. Let me correct. There was, in your preamble, there was this bit you said about 101.
Well, I was going to get to that.
Okay, good.
I'm going to get to that because that's an important point.
Absolutely.
In fact, let me get to it now.
Okay.
Were any prisoners exchanged for the 23 hostages? Because we're hearing that more than 100 Boko Haram militants who are being held in Kirikiri prison were released in exchange for the 23 hostages.
So I think I saw this. My wife asked me to read it yesterday in the morning. Oh, there's this thing circulating around on social media that during Eradua Jonathan's time in 2009, the piece said 104 Boko Haram prisoners were incarcerated in Kirikiri prison. 3 died, according to the report. And they said only 101 left. And they said those 101 at 6 a.m. on Saturday, they were released in exchange for this 23 that we got out 3 days ago. It just doesn't add up. And whoever wrote that did not have the guts to sign his rubbish. Whatever I write, I sign. And no document is valid unless it is signed. So there are a lot of mischief makers going around talking rubbish that they know nothing about. Nothing. Absolutely. So no prisoner exchanges, none. No ransom was paid. I just drove from Kaduna here. The reason I'm doing all the rounds in the media houses is to correct a lot of
Yes, I understand that.
things going around.
But obviously people will want to know how you secured their release.
Good. So and I said it, all over the world, if you have hostage situation, you have 1 or 4 or 5 things to. Number one, the military goes in for rescue and incur what we call collateral damage. Those collateral damages are human beings. So you get 60% dead and we get 40% out. From the outset, the president and the CDS, through the committee, said that was not an option to even consider. They're going to be patient for as long as it takes to get everybody out safely. So rescue operation to incur collateral damage was not an option. Number two, pay ransom. I want Nigerians to think these are a band of terrorists that attacked this train, that killed 8-9 people, and that took 63 of our citizens hostage and kept them for young as 2 years old and as old as 85-year-old. No government, no sane government in this country, in this world, will pay ransom to this bunch of people. What do they do with the ransom? Go and buy more arms and continue to kill. That was not an option at all.
Yeah, but I'm still wondering how you got them out.
Okay, so number three, do nothing, like many governors are doing. Number four, give up, like many governors are doing. Number five, prisoner swap that are done all over the world. That did not happen here. How did we do it? That is why it took this long. It took this long because we've had to go through all the networks, all across the bushes, the forests of this country and beyond. They are human beings like us. There must be somebody they listen to. We found out who those people were. All across the country, all across the forests in this country. That's why it took this long. Meetings at 12 midnight in the forest, meetings at 3 a.m. It took patient negotiation, patient deliberation, patient reaching out to interlocutors all across this country to get us where we were. Let me say this again. No ransom was paid.
Right, but having achieved this feat, do you now have a formula for getting people out if they get abducted?
Good. And if anybody tells you one template fits all, he's either lying or doesn't know what he's talking about. Every situation has to be taken the way it comes. And all the conflicts are different. The first thing we needed to know, who are these bad guys? Are they Boko Haram? Are they the regular bandits we know? Are they Ansaru? Are they Dar es Salaam? Who are they? Are they ISWAP?
And what did you find out in that regard?
And they said it themselves. They are Boko Haram. They are not the regular bandits we've been going around in the bushes meeting. They are Boko Haram. So their modus operandi is different. The leadership is different. The people they listen to are different. Their grievances are different. So we needed to know that, and who do they listen to? Where are they located? From the outset they said it. They were not interested in money. They said it themselves. So we needed to know, what is it? Oh, they tell us, oh, we don't trust government. We don't trust DSS. We don't trust the army. We don't trust you. We don't trust. Who then do you trust?
So if they were not interested in money, how come that we heard of millions of naira being paid to release the previous hostages abducted in that same train attack?
Good. It's a very good question. So when we went as a group, we said, our brief is not to discuss money, even with them. We told them, we are not here to discuss money or ransom, and we're not going to entertain that. You have grievances, government has grievances against you too. Let us sit down and sort out these grievances, but our goal is to see how we get everybody out. What are you after? Your religion says this, your religion says, which religion preaches you to kill people in cold blood? To abduct women and children as young as 2 years old? An old woman as 85-year-old? Getting to them was the thing. Understanding them over time, over the 6 months. We've been away from our families. I just came back from Kaduna after the last hostage was released from hospital. So we needed to know who they were, what their grievances are, who we could get to, and that was why it took this long.
But negotiations are about give and take. You must have given up something.
Good. What is it we gave? Initially, what do they want? Very, very initially, even way back in June, they said their children. In a military operation somewhere 2 years ago, when they were destroyed out of a forest in Nasarawa State, they said there were children, they all ran away and left their children. And of course their children were taken into custody and kept in orphanages all over. That was what they said. From the very beginning, they said, oh, they are children.
So you got the
children. But we
children.
needed to find out where the children are.
Right.
Who are these children? Who would incarcerate children? Give whoever his child is, give his children. Well, at that time what we asked for your children, you give us all the women, all the injured, all the sick, all the wounded. Came down to 32. So we would leave all the men that are healthy. At least we can continue to do that. But we get out the vulnerable. Well, we went to do that, and they gave us only 11. They reneged. That was the very initial. They reneged, and they gave us 11 for their 8. When you are in such a situation, even if you get one person out, get that one person out, continue talking.
Right, so the bottom line is that you return some of their people
their
to
children,
them.
No, their children as young as 6 years old and 14, 15-year-olds that they ran away and left. Give them their children. They were supposed to give us everybody, which they promised, and reneged.
No, I know, but I need to be clear that you returned their people to them.
Their children, yes.
Right,
yes,
okay.
yes.
So there was some form of exchange.
But not
it
prisoners.
just wasn't the Boko Haram
and they are not prisoners.
Right.
I mean, children are not prisoners.
Okay.
Return them to their parents. Yes.
Well, I'm glad we clarified that point, and thank you for making that ineluctably clear. Now, Tuku Mamu, who was that independent negotiator who was recently arrested, suggested in a statement that one of the militant commanders was planning to marry one of the hostages called Azufa John, who is a Christian student. I wonder whether you can verify the truth of that statement and perhaps tell us whether she was one of those released.
Right. So we as a committee saw that release too. It was a press statement from him on the 19th of August, alerting the Christian Association of Nigeria and the federal government that one of the commanders was planning to marry off this 21-year-old girl who is a Christian. And he was invoking the name of Leah Sharibu. And everybody, we were all very upset about that. So let me tell you, every person that was released, man or woman, we would sit down as a committee and talk with them. All the women that came out said that story was nothing but a lie.
How do you mean a lie?
A lie.
Which part of it?
All of it. None of the commanders.
So there's nobody called Azufa John?
No, there's Azurfa.
Right.
Azurfa was the apple of our eyes since that story. Azurfa, yes, is a girl. But none of the war commanders planned to marry her.
Right, so she was released.
Yes, let me tell you.
Okay.
So none of the war commanders was trying to marry her. So why was that story? Trying to invoke Leah Sharibu, the sad story of Leah Sharibu, and involve a religious undertone to this. This is the most cruel, you see. So from that time, each time we talk to them, would ask, how is Azurfa? And whoever you release, Azurfa must come out. And when all the 23 came out, the first person we asked, where is Azurfa? Where is a very beautiful, good, decent human being. She was sick, she needed blood, she was sick, we took care of her, we are glad she's the last person to have gotten out today.
I'm sure a lot of people will be relieved to hear
so
you clarify
there was no story about any of their commanders wanting to marry Azurfa. It was just a made-up story. And Azurfa was one of the 23 that came out.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you for clarifying that point. Now let's look at the political angle to this. With the campaign season upon us, 2023 fast approaching, you have consistently been a stentorian critic of President Buhari and his government, particularly with regard to insecurity. How come you are now working for the Buhari government?
I will check up that word, stentorian.
Well, another word for it is strident. So take your pick, but you get the drift.
Yeah, you see, when we're out of the forest now, this politics is no fun. Seriously, it's no fun. We are out there. So we were out there in the forest. Charles, we brought out this 23. I don't think any one of them was APC or PDP or AFGA.
That's a good point.
I don't want any one of them was Christian or Muslim or whatever.
They're just people.
Human beings, like you and I, right? So the fact that I criticize this president and this government is not mutually exclusive. Me working for this country. And it doesn't mean I will not continue to criticize this government, because it is my constitutional right and responsibility as a citizen to do that. So yes, it's not APC, PDP. I was working for this country, like all the 7 honorable gentlemen on this team, people that have given their all and have come back voluntarily to see how they can make a difference in the lives of our people. So Mark Twain said,
right,
patriotism is loyalty to the country always, and loyalty to government when it deserves it. This government has done well. The military have done very well in getting these people out. I will give credit to this government that I criticize, this president that I criticize, this military that I criticize. They did. We saw that.
Well, that's a very noble thing to say. But of course, on this program, a couple of weeks ago, you endorsed Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate, as the person you want to see in Aso Rock in 2023. What if Atiku loses? Would you still support whoever becomes the next president?
Right. And I know he won't lose. But whoever becomes president...
I mean, you hope he'll be president.
No, whoever becomes president. Like I said, Charles, this is not about any one person or any one party. We are here to serve our country and to serve our people. Governments come and go. This country and our people will remain. This country that has given my generation more than we've ever given back. We went into that forest for our people, not for any government or any political party. Whoever comes will continue, hopefully, will continue to support for the sake of our people to bring peace to this country. That's our goal.
Right. And just very quickly, that committee, was it set up specifically for the train hostages, or is it now an ongoing thing with kidnaps?
No, it was set up to see how we can help get this 23 out. The hope is, I mean, we've shown a template that we could never have done this without the military. So this is a classic example of how the kinetic, and the military continue to do the kinetic. The kinetic and the non-kinetic can come together to achieve good. None of these two can go independently and hope to achieve much. And I am, to be honest, and I have to say it, it takes the leadership, and that leadership is that of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Loki Irabo. But we had the bridge. Who are the bridge? The bridge are our retired military generals. The bridge between the military authority and the civil authority that could bring both together and work for common good. We are not a separate society. We are all the same people.
Sounds absolutely fascinating. I expect there'll be a book that'll come out of this later on, given that you are a professor and you are enormously articulate. So here we've got 2023 approaching. I suspect some of the candidates may not be able to campaign in some parts of the country because of insecurity. What is the way forward after this release of the 23
Right, and to be honest, I've said it time and time again. Security is the most important problem we have, especially what ails the north, and also the southeast, and the northeast too. Without security, 2023 election will just be a bridge too far. I cannot see how we can hold credible election with all these security challenges. That is why everybody must come in to see how we can douse this tension. Not only for the elections, because many politicians, all they want to do, let's have a quiet period where we'll have election and everybody goes back to as if it is 1999. Everybody must come in, not because of the election, that we have a momentum now, that we need to come in, not only in the northwest and north central. The southeast people must come in. The northeast, I know people have been coming in and talking, but they must continue. This job cannot be done by the military alone. The kinetic alone will not do it. It has to be married with the akinetic, like we have seen, with the full support of the military. This was a military operation. The military provided an enabling environment for us to be able to access these people and talk with them. There was no way we could have accessed any of this forest, gone into any of this forest without the military. They would give us cover, air cover, land cover to go through that. So everybody, from the Chief of Defense Staff to all the services and the DSS, everybody came in to support this. And we have done this. It doesn't mean we're going back home to sleep. We are at the service of this country to see how we can play a role.
Okay, as I said, I can see a book coming out of this, possibly even a movie, because it just sounds so exciting, the way that you're describing it. But I think the key thing here is that in the end, you achieved what you set out to achieve. And that should be enormously commended. Professor Usman Yusuf, who is the Secretary to the Chief of Defense Staff's committee that negotiated the release of the last batch of train hostages, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for having me.